Welcome to Roasting the World, where we offer an adversarial perspective on today's cultural issues. We do it for the intelligent culture. I'm your host, Mr. Robinson, and we have a special guest today.
I'm Willis Levon Petrie.
All right, so Mr. Petrie, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself for the guests.
I'm an educator and a filmmaker, and I do a podcast as well.
Okay. So our topic today to be roasted is, how do we move the culture forward and the state of our culture right now? And what that means kind of to me is, what are we putting into our future generations that's going to have them be better than us? So one thing that I noticed yesterday, because today's Martin Luther King Day, where there was a couple of posts where they had Martin Luther King like with the bottles, one with the sticking up the middle finger and different things of that nature. Do you feel like our youth are really in touch with their historical significance of some of the things that have happened just in the past 50 to 60 years?
To some degree, yes.
Okay.
It's funny, if you want to find out what's going on as far as activism or how to grassroots,
Right.
it's out there online.
Right.
If you don't, you won't. My problem is there's so much information overload.
Right.
With what's online, you kind of
You don't know what's true, what's not, what's
not just it's too much information.
Okay.
Everybody has an opinion. Everybody's flooding the airwaves with their thoughts, and it is too much stuff going on. But when I'm from New Jersey, so when they had a Black Lives Matter protest, there was like over 10,000 people in Washington Square Park.
Right.
But there was a media blackout on it.
Also, then nobody could see it.
Yes, because my boy was a photographer. He has
Right.
amazing pictures of it.
Right.
And the fact that they shut down Washington Square and other parts of downtown that have never been done before in the history of New York. It's amazing. Like, the streets are filled. If you didn't know about it, you wouldn't know about it.
Right.
If my man wasn't a photographer, you wouldn't know about it. So the fact that every major network didn't put it on the news, it's crazy to me. So I'm seeing like parallel things. If it wasn't for social media,
Right.
I wouldn't have known about it.
So, and one thing that sticks out when you say that is, we don't control our own narrative when it comes to the news.
Mm-hmm.
It's been too many times when I see something going on, and the way that they slant it is, hey, that guy didn't have his hands on the wheel, or he made a move, or he looked crazy, or he had, something going on to where the justification was there versus coming from the perspective of, this is a citizen. So that kind of leads me into the imagery that's put out there concerning our music, our films, what's on television, and just, I know as a film producer, myself and yourself, how do you try to control the narrative of what's seen and how we're viewed to the world?
So this is my thing. When you say what's put out there, anybody could put anything out there now.
Right.
More so before they start regulating it, because every couple of years with net neutrality, they're trying to regulate the internet.
Right.
Okay. So everything is put out there. So at what point do we take responsibility and accountability for what we promote?
Right.
And what we tolerate? Like, I forgot who was killed. Somebody was killed. They've had 255 rappers killed in the past year.
Right.
Which is crazy. When I was younger, Scott LaRock died, and that was like a big thing for 6 months. It may have been 4 people, but to go from that in the 80s to 255 is crazy.
That's because we got a gang type lifestyle. We don't value life as much as we used to, and it's different. We become desensitized because we see it all the time. Think about what the imagery that we see on television, think about the movies we watch, and then think about the music we listen to. All they talk about is killing us.
But
all we talk about is killing us. All we talk about is killing us.
That. Like,
and I can't even say we because they don't represent me.
No. What I mean by that, it's like if somebody leaves $5 or whatever, if you starving, they leave a cracker there and $5, whatever, for you to get food and leaves a room and you go and steal it.
Yeah.
That's messed up that they left that $5, but nobody forced you to steal it. Like that show.
That's true.
What's that show? Bait Car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen
Which is
that
crazy.
show.
Like,
Yeah, I've seen that.
just
show.
because a car
It's right
need
there
a
with the
key
keys
doesn't
in it,
mean you
don't
gotta steal the
it.
car.
Right.
And then
Right.
if you do that, the repercussions of that is
Yeah.
mad killing and robbing and stuff. We have to say something. I forgot who it was. Somebody was killed. One of these rappers was killed,
Yeah.
man. And T.I. was like, enough is enough.
Right.
And the community on social media ripped him a new one.
Right.
Then he backtracked what he was saying. He was like, enough is enough. We need to move past the violence. And,
Yeah.
and then they ripped him like, oh, you snitch and you all that. So it's like, all right.
There's no accountability. Nobody
that's
can,
us,
Nobody
you
can
know?
tell you anything. We can't tell each other nothing. No outside people can tell us nothing. So we're not gonna grow and learn
To answer
because
your question.
nobody can tell us nothing. And we can't tell the older generation and the younger generation. There's such a gap right there that, you know, because how was history passed down? It was passed down orally before, where somebody would say, "Hey, do this and you're gonna be successful." Now they're not listening.
Yeah, I know. And then you have social. So if you want to do something, social media is out there. You set up an algorithm
Right.
to do certain things and make money and do podcasts. But if you want to like not do something and goof off, like what's an influencer? Is that somebody that's unemployed?
Not necessarily.
No, I found out what it was.
Okay.
Through somebody I want to have on my podcast that has their own business. They said anybody that can make money.
Yeah.
So I was like, mostly when I see that, it's like half naked
Okay.
chicks, and she was like, "That's your algorithm." I was like, "Oh wow," but that's what I see. That's what promoted. That's what is promoted. Where you see these people with these rappers, people sleeping with celebrities. You know.
I mean, that's just like the music. If we don't buy it, if we don't, you know, buy into it or watch it, you know what I'm saying, then it won't get so much attention. This is like if I'm a certain type of guy and I want this girl to have the fake whatever, or she want me to have
Titties is
my
can I say
my
titties?
pocket, yeah, my pockets. If I don't walk around with all the jewelry on, if that's not popular, that's not what's attracting the person, then we won't get it. If you look at TikTok, there's an algorithm, like you said. When they're in the Asian country, it's where they got to promote education,
Yeah, I know.
engineering, research and technology, and all that kind of stuff. And that's what gets pushed out there to the masses, and that's what gets people popular, as well as music. Now, if you come to America,
You know that's a Chinese company.
yeah, that's why I said Asian.
Yeah.
But if you come to America, the algorithm is different, where they want to promote the things that dumb us down. That's warfare.
It is Cold War.
That's
Yeah.
warfare. You know, and we buying right into it. And just like, okay, take it from that's a global perspective, but take it from just an Americanized perspective, which is still probably global too. But the way that we promote ourselves and our culture and what we push out there dumbs us down. We're not educated as far as financial literacy, as far as technologies are concerned, and different things of that nature that will push us. Now, we all know how to use an iPhone. We can get on a laptop, but we're not doing the things that we need to do to push us and to grow us.
But you know what? Some people are. You can't take it.
There are some pockets. There are some pockets.
So that's what in 2023 you can't take everybody. The reason I mentioned T.I.
Right.
I'm thinking he should have manned up and was like, "This is what it is." But they were calling him snitch and calling all this
Yeah.
stuff. Then he was backtracking what
Yeah.
he was saying. I didn't think that was cool. Now this thing with the Migos.
Yeah. What dude was shooting dice or something?
Yeah, like, are you serious right now? But nobody out of a kabillion people, nobody's gonna be like, "Yo, man, that shit is stupid." I know somebody died.
I mean, what part is stupid?
Okay, well, let me go back to okay. I
I'm
don't want to mess
asking.
up.
No,
All
I'm
right.
asking. Like,
All right, for somebody to get shot over a dice game or argument, it's stupid.
that happens all the time
No, I'm sure it does.
in our culture.
I'm sure it does.
You don't see, because other folks, you know, I saw this.
So you
quote.
ask what you ask.
Yeah.
People can slap their wife all the time in whatever culture. Somebody can say, "Don't slap your wife. That's stupid. Move on."
Right. Okay.
You shouldn't be wrong. You
So,
shouldn't be ostracized.
I saw
for
a
saying
post that said why other cultures don't sell plates, right? Something. Why do black people always got to sell plates, right? And the response was because we got good enough credit to where we can buy a restaurant or a food truck. And I was kind of offended a little bit, but it was kind of true. Like, you don't see these other cultures selling plates because they don't have to. And I think,
don't know how true
and
that
I
is.
think we're in a lot of we do a lot of things because we have to do it. We're trying to survive and different things of that nature. I understand that because I was one of those kids that had to do stuff to
Dude,
survive.
they did not have to be shooting dice at that point.
But
Like this, we talk about ownership and owning what you do. Let's own it. Like
Right.
you worth $1 billion, whatever you worth. Keep with your boys, do whatever you got to do. But I don't know if it was Warren Sapp, but more than one person was like, "Listen, once you make money and you reach a certain age, you shouldn't be out until 1 or 2 in the morning in certain areas. I mean, you can be,
Okay.
but stuff goes with that.
I can understand
And you
that.
can't be giving excuses or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it for people that do that. You a grown ass.
Okay, so look at Nipsey, right? Nipsey was in his neighborhood where he built a store and was trying to give back, right? He was doing the right things in his neighborhood, broad daylight, and he was a member of the gang of that neighborhood, and he still got popped.
What does that got to do with what I said about people hanging out late at night?
Well,
Like,
I
in
understand.
certain areas.
I
like,
understand the late at night part, but I'm just talking about going back to your neighborhood.
Nothing
In
is
general.
wrong. Nothing is wrong with that. But see, this is what this is. We talk about accountability. It's
Okay.
like I don't know if I can curse. I cursed.
I mean, just come on.
All right, it's like nigga. I'm not calling you nigga, but I'm just saying like, dude, you this, that, and the other. You at a nice whatever type of party, whatever environment you in,
Okay.
drinking, gambling, late at night, shooting dice, whatever they doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not a formula for.
Success, growth.
Yeah, I don't want to say success because you're already successful, but it's like.
What is? I mean, that's relative
True, but I don't want to go on.
Okay.
I'm saying it's like when you get a certain age, there's just certain shit you can't do. When you're a mom, you get a couple kids. You shouldn't be one of we used to call them dancing mommies in the club. You can be in the club, but with your skirt looking to get chose all the time. It's like you're somebody's mom. You're somebody's dad. You get a certain age, you probably could fight in the street, but you just don't want to be
known for that.
known for fighting in the street, and then you got like health benefits and shit with your kid. Like it's just stuff that happens as you get older.
Do you think that we get stuck at a certain age sometimes? And like I know people that are like 45, 50, 60 years old, right? And they still are acting like the 20-year-olds. They're still walking around gangbanging. They're still walking
So
around
let me ask you
doing
something.
the things that they did in their youth that brought them success or made them happy. So now they're stuck right there, and they still got their pants hanging off their butt. They still can't find a job. They're still doing the same
So
thing
let
that they
me
were
let
doing.
me ask you something. These people that you know, let's say you're friends with them. Let's say you were friends with them then. Let's say you're friends with them now.
Okay.
Let's say they're cool. Let's say it's family.
Okay.
But when they go with your position and what you do, and whatever you going through, when they go left, you can hang out to a certain point. But when they go left,
Right.
you're smart enough to go. You know what?
I'm about to
headed
go home.
right. I'm going right.
Right.
I'll
Right.
get up with you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm saying publicly we don't do enough of. You know what? That nigga should went right.
Okay. So do
We
you,
don't do that a lot. We put it up to the. Give you an example. There was a girl in Texas. She was a 5-year-old girl who was killed. Black girl who was killed. What's his name? Jesse, the black activist dude. Pretty
Okay.
boy, light skin. He's always posting stuff.
okay.
You know, but anyway, she was killed. People are getting killed by cops and people all the time. So he was like, this drive-by, they thought some white guy shot this black girl. Drive-by, right by her mother. It's a red pickup truck. It was like 3 years ago. Hitting social media. People were up in arms. This is ridiculous. Want to protest.
Mm-hmm.
The whole nine. 4 days later, it was, and they had a picture of this white guy who had owned the truck.
Okay.
4 days later, it came out. He wasn't the guy that was shooting.
Okay.
It was two guys on some gangbanging stuff.
Two people of color.
Yes.
Okay.
Stray bullet hit the girl.
Right.
All the protests with Black Lives Matter stopped.
Okay.
I gotta remember his name. I don't want to go to my phone.
Yeah, but-
And even the dude that was pushing hard for reform, all that stopped.
So what
and I
is it?
have a problem with that because
Right.
at the end of the day, Black Lives Matter, and I was with that, but it's like it's still a black girl that was killed.
It's still a child that was
Still
killed.
a child
no
that
matter
was
what color.
no, but it was Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
I'm saying, and it was still a child that was killed, and all this outrage was out there.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was turned out it was people of color that shot her.
Mm-hmm.
All of that outrage stopped
Why?
publicly. That's my point. Why?
Why?
I get
So-
why a little bit, but when it comes,
I don't.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you why I get. It's like you don't want to put your family business out there. What I mean by that is this.
I get that. I get
So I don't even need to explain.
But-
But when it comes to life and death,
that. Yeah, because that's
that's
divisive.
that's different.
That's divisive because then we're separated because there are so many things that we have to do together as a family, kind of speak, in America or in whatever country you live in, just whatever color you are, we got to come together
So,
as a unit.
in case your audience
to get
doesn't
stuff
know, because you
together.
already knew what I was talking about when I said put your family business.
Yeah,
Explain
yeah.
that.
I mean, well, basically, like if I do whatever goes on in my house stays in my house. You don't got to go outside.
we were
of
talking
my
about
house.
culturally.
But we talking about culturally.
So culturally,
But go ahead. Go ahead.
culturally, because we don't control the media narrative, the news narrative, sometimes they take the smallest thing and portray people of color in a negative light.
Okay.
Sometimes they take our heroes and portray it in a negative light. So even if they did something in a negative way, a lot of people of color just don't want to jump on that bandwagon publicly
Right.
and say, "Oh, this is what it is," because we know behind the scenes
It's some
how
other
we get
things going on.
treated, and so we
Yeah.
wait or we either keep it to ourselves. Not that we think things are innocent, but you get enough
You need more
mud
information.
slinging, yeah,
Okay,
whatever.
now-
So when we say family business, it's like, you know what, I'm not going to comment on that because these are things we don't have control over. We put in a negative way a lot of times, and I'm not, And then if you
Right.
say one negative thing, you can say a million positive things. You say one negative thing, that's what's promoted.
Right.
So when we say family business, when he said, I get that. When we say family business, that's what we mean. Like, I'm not going to comment on that.
But there's so many people out here that fit into the narrative that people are talking about and making it come true.
I'm still not.
It doesn't mean everybody, but there are people that I don't want to be around that look like me.
So with that
You know what
being
I'm saying?
said, when it comes to death, children, things that could be
Then
detrimental
that
to
should be-
education, that's when you open up
Yeah.
to stuff.
Yeah.
But you can't control everybody, can't
Right.
control every narrative. So what
Right.
I'm finding out with some younger people, I'm trying to sound like me either. What I'm finding out, there's people that's about that life, about that grassroots movement, that when the majority of people are going left, they're going right.
Right.
And they're staying right, so you can't bring everybody.
That's true. So some
So you
people
gotta
gonna
call
get-
it. So you gotta
Yeah.
call it out when you see that
and some people gonna get left behind,
a lot,
and that's what we are because everybody
because
is.
the information is out there.
Right.
Knowledge is
And
out
if you
there.
choose to be dumb, if you choose to be ignorant,
I didn't use.
I did. Dumb plus dumb
Cut me-
equal
cut
dumber.
me-
No.
cut me
Dumb
out.
plus dumb equal dumber.
You just-
You know what I'm saying? Like if you continue to be dumb when you don't have to be, when you see it's a direct pathway to success.
You know how many people gonna be coming for you?
I don't care. So it's a direct pathway on how to make it out. It's so many people that have made it and have some
know.
moderate level of success. Not even, when I say success, I don't necessarily mean you got millions of dollars. Success can mean you made it out the hood. You can take care of your mom, your dad, your family, your wife, kids, or whatever. You got a roof over your head. You got a good clothes on. You
I have
smell
a problem.
good. You can brush your teeth. Every day. It just depends on what your success looks like for you. But you definitely know what not being successful looks like.
I have a problem. Maybe this will be a topic for my podcast. I'm gonna limit the question. So
Okay.
I have a problem with the hood, a ghetto being synonymous with black, just in the sense that that's a relatively new phenomenon.
What?
Well, there's working class, there's poor people, there's
Right.
like I don't know how it is now, but
Yeah.
like in the northern areas, you had poor working class white people, you had poor working class Asian people, and they
Yeah.
just were working class.
Yeah.
I think you want to talk about social media. When we had this comedy stint in the 90s and I won't say late 80s, in the 90s, everything that working class people did, it's like, oh, well, you know, that's black people, this and that. So now,
Because white collar is who?
that's why. But I'm saying, but there's white poor people that may have done the same thing.
Yeah.
For example, my apartment building in Jersey, we have a bridge. It's a town, East Orange, on one side of the bridge. Other side of the bridge is Bloomfield. A lot of black people live in my building, right? My next door neighbor was a French lady, old, like 90. She never moved out.
Okay.
Another guy, I think he was Italian, he used to drive the train, used to walk to the bodega, smoke a cigar, whatever. Now, you got black and white people living in the same building.
Right.
Black people that I have conversations with that are younger, you know, not young, but you know, they say, oh, this is the hood.
Okay.
But the same white people that have lived in the same building wouldn't refer to their building as hood.
That's a cultural
ghetto.
difference as far as the terminology.
You know what I'm saying?
I
So,
think,
I'm saying in my parents and older siblings growing up, that's not what they did. That's what I'm saying. It's a relatively
And you
new
know,
thing.
when you speak things into existence, words have power. That's why you're supposed to speak positive affirmations over yourself. But we're speaking like in our music, like when you calling ourselves these different names, when we're saying we're gonna kill such and such that look like us. Those are affirmations that we're speaking to our culture and our people.
So that's why I have a problem with that word.
Yeah. So how can we
Being synonymous with black.
But what?
It's been commercial. It has been commercialized.
Yes,
That is my point.
It has. And it's
people-
cool to be hood. I got people right now that I know in my family that come from very highfalutin areas, right? And some come from
Highfalutin.
Highfalutin, that money.
What's that? Oh.
They come from money, right? They come from good stock, so to speak. You know, and they make it a point to drive to the hood, to the area where it's, you know, because it's fun, it's exciting. It's like, you remember back in the day, people wanted to date the bad boy. You know, they wanted to date the dude that was thugging. They wanted to date the dude with the leather jacket and the comb over. You know, what's his name? Fines. You know, all those type of people. So it's kind of like you want to go to those areas, but you're putting yourself at risk every time. Maybe when people are come from those type of low income areas, they want to give back, but they also want to experience a life that is more safe and more sound. But I say for me, when I lived in a certain area, I felt safe. Nobody broke in my cars. Nobody was robbing my house. There was a lot of police. That's who the problem was. I mean, there was some drugs and some crime going on, but if you minding your business and you chilling. But wait a minute. When I moved out to a higher income area, car got broke into, house got broken into, and it wasn't people that looked like me that was in there doing that. You know what I'm saying? So we can say all the things about that if we want to, because we don't control that narrative, but it's a lot more criminals in other areas that don't look like me that are.
I was just talking about the terminology of the word. Like,
yeah, I get it.
The breaking into cars, that's nothing new. Crime is nothing new.
Right.
How we've commercialized ghetto and hood to just mean black is new.
In the way that you talk, like if you get if you dating like a dude or a girl from the hood, and they supposed to be like you know that type of person, but that don't even define who you are. I know some people that's calm, cool, collected, smart, intelligent, that's handling their business, going to school. I know some people that work their way out of that, bought houses and different things like that, and you wouldn't even know where they were from unless they told you. But there is a brand that goes with that,
and that is started from. I'm saying that's.
But we started that.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that started from the mid-90s. I remember that started from the mid-90s to now.
Right.
People be on Def Comedy and they're like, "Oh, well, black and ghetto is," and it's just evolved to just. That's what it means,
right?
So then, when you get somebody 30 or something, they think that's what it is.
So what do you do to change that narrative and take back some of the power that our music and the imagery that we see on TV and maybe some of the news stuff that's out there? The fact that they say, "Oh, we don't read, we don't like to read books and different things of that nature." How do we get knowledge?
Shit, I don't hang out with niggas from the.
I mean, but look at what you just said. You said the N-word. You said
I said wait before I say I like that word.
No, but I'm saying I don't personally.
I know.
But what I'm saying is like that's why. Because if you go anywhere, people that see this podcast that don't look like us, they're gonna say, "Listen to what he said. How come it's okay?" and they're gonna judge you based on that.
Fuck them.
I know, I understand it, but that's what everybody feels like from the neighborhood. That's what everybody feels like. That's all. Well, we're gonna take it. Different things like that. That's not pushing the culture forward. That's holding us in the '60s.
What, saying nigga?
Yeah. We need a new word.
I like that word.
So do all the KKK members and the racist people and the Jim Crow people. They all love it too. Because they going to call you that all day. Yeah, and it was offensive back in the day. Now we say, oh, we've taken power.
You know what?
It's no longer offensive.
Reinforcing what I was saying about ghetto and hood.
Right.
That word has become synonymous and commercialized
with black
too.
people.
No, I'm saying but it's become commercialized too. And it's become more acceptable.
You don't hear that in commercials.
No,
I know what you're talking about, but I'm giving you pushback. I'm just
why?
Giving you
Like you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
I was just agreeing. It's become commercialized too.
To us, when we put it on in our music and in our movies and things like that. But I really wish we could do something different.
Yeah, well, sometimes
I really do, man. I wish we could change our mentality that would push the culture forward. Because right now, research and technology, mathematics, different things of that nature that would push us forward. Invent something, man. Do something.
People are.
That's not what's pushed out here.
I get that. So what I'm saying is sometimes people are going to get left behind, and sometimes they're not.
It's going to be like a bunch of people.
Yeah, well, it's a bunch of... Because like when I started education, it was like, oh, well, you can't have computers. Every kid can have a computer. All you need to do is just give a kid a computer. And it's like, you see how you laugh?
Right.
Because now you give a kid a computer, the kids that don't want to do something with a computer may just break the computer, lose their password, go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Anything. You have a project like, well, all they need to do is be creative and do creative things and not just be in a book all day.
Right.
So then the kid may say, you know what? My pencil broke. Why are you laughing? I already know why you laughing. Or I don't have whatever. And this concept is real because what has happened is you build a subculture of entitlement. You have rich entitlement and you have poor entitlement.
Right.
And then when you have kids from other countries that come from poor countries, they don't have that same sense of entitlement. So you could have a kid from, like in the North, you have a kid from Nigeria. You have a kid from Guatemala or someplace.
Right.
In the same class, living in the same neighborhood.
But they got a different mentality.
Towards school.
And their family got a different mentality towards school.
So then you can't put that on.
Maybe it's a value. The other people value that. The educational system and what it can do for their family.
Yeah, you gotta pay for school in those other countries.
And like other folks don't. The other people don't value it.
But see, on the same token, you have kids. But see, that's not all.
They don't see the benefit of it.
You're right. So you don't have all African American kids acting like that. So you have some whose parents, whether they poor or rich or whatever, like this is what you're gonna do.
Right.
This is what it is. So if you have like 5 kids, you may have 2 or 3 African American kids. Like their parents aren't playing.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And then because of the obstacles you have to overcome, they excel. I'm saying as a whole, when people pull that, watching YouTube, not doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, they doing that at home too.
Yeah, I'm talking about the people. Yeah. Like if you're gonna give a commentary and people on social media or whatever, call that shit. Like you know how like the gatekeepers with award shows and all these other things that say what's acceptable and what's not.
Right.
That could be more controllable than the social media.
How do we become those gatekeepers?
All right, I'll give you an example. When Nelly came out in the mid to late 90s, and Snoop, they were giving a concert at Morehouse and what's the girl called? Spelman.
Mm-hmm.
And with that song Tip Drill, where they do the credit card and the girls the female, the young lady students there, and Mel, I guess Mel at Morehouse, protested.
Okay, good.
They took that out and they made a difference with them because they was like, yo, you can't be doing that.
Right.
Not enough people did that, you know. Okay. But that was a sign of the times of young people at the time when that song came out.
Making a decision.
Even though
which decisions sell millions and millions.
But that changed the imagery that they did in their music videos.
Right.
After that. It's like young people, if you want to be an activist, be an activist. Take a stand. But people want to be an activist without making a sacrifice.
Okay, I mean, people want to be rich without making a sacrifice.
Yeah, well, you answer your question.
People want all the stuff that
Without making a sacrifice.
We've become so.
That's people too, not just us.
Well, we just gotta specifically talk about us. You know what I mean?
Obviously.
Because there's enough venues to talk about the other folks. So like, we have become like a microwave type of society. We want stuff instantly, right now, and I think we need to get back to some of our core values to where we can be successful and more unified. Like, why is it that, you know, we're in this situation? We know why, right? So that's no longer a question. So what do we do to get out of the situation? Is like solution oriented. Like, why do we not grow our own food? I know everybody's gonna say somebody does, some people do, but I'm saying for the majority of the time, like, we don't grow our own food. We don't know how to build nothing. People don't have skills. Like, not even saying you got to go to college for 4 years or whatever, but you should know how to be an electrician, a mason, bricklayer. You got to know how to do something so that you could, you know, provide. And a lot of us don't do that. I know they used to do that back in the day, but they have gone away from that.
No, what I mean back in the day, I don't mean like 50 years ago.
No, I mean like Booker T. Washington time.
No, that stopped. No, real talk. That stopped under Bill Clinton.
Okay.
It says you don't even have to go that far back.
Agriculture and all that stuff.
You don't have to go that far back. Most high schools in the 90s had a vocation program.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go to a high school, 80s, 90s, and learn a trade.
Right.
Under, it could have been good intentions, it may not have been, but this theory like, oh, well, everybody should go to college and have the opportunity. Just people, all race, all color. Right. But that may not be their thing.
Yeah, everybody don't.
And then you're looking down at the trades,
right?
And you need those skill positions.
Yeah, because now infrastructure is
kaput.
Yeah,
yeah. So that's a case of, I think, it's not cultural appropriation. It's like, what's the phrase I'm looking for? It's like cultural condescension. Like, you don't know what these people need.
Right.
And I'm not talking about a race thing. That's a class thing.
Yeah, because the super rich people are going to say, I've seen people go to some of the low income schools and be like, you need this. Here go a bike, here go a coat. What they really need is to figure out the why they're in this situation and why they're having these mental and emotional problems.
Yeah. So it's like, you don't know what they need. So when they did that,
do we know what we need?
But you'll figure it out when you're hungry. You'll figure out what you got. So I'm saying, so when they did that, that meant that was a national agenda.
Yeah.
So I guess after I graduated, so you could go to a high school, and in the basement of a lot of high schools, you would see actual cars.
Yeah, well, that mechanic shops. They taught girls to go to cosmetology stuff.
Yeah, you would see that stuff.
And that's why so many people were able to support their families.
Yeah,
you know how poor we are right now, and rich at the same time.
But what you also get too is you get a good work ethic.
Yeah, you do, and you get something that you are that you want to do.
I forgot. I had a friend, and my parents. Rest in peace, my parents. Me putting gray hairs in their head. I had a friend. He got to leave school, fourth period. As a Job Corps. Can't remember what it was.
Not Job Corps. Work.
It was something.
Because I did that.
And I was like, I was like, what?
I worked 2 jobs in high school, man. I would leave at like 12 and go to Checkers, and then after that, I'd catch the bus all the way out, and then I would go work at Food Line. And because I was working, man.
So he did that. I was like, you get to work?
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to, he wasn't on whatever track for school.
Yeah.
But he left. And he would get a job.
Yeah.
So I saw him one time when I was coming back from lunch. I was like, you have a job? It was in 10th grade. He was like, yeah. So I told my parents, I said, I want to go to whatever that was. And my parents were like, what?
Yeah.
Because I was going to school.
Yeah.
And I was like, they were like, what? And I was like, that's it. I want to go
to
school
work.
Algebra. And they looked at me like, you've lost your mind.
Yeah. So, okay. So
but they don't have that anymore.
Right. So on Roast of
but
the
that
World,
benefited.
We have what's called roasted or toasted. If you roast something, that means you toss it in the fire, and we don't. It does not push in our culture, and we done with it, right? If you toasting it, then it's something that we need to come back. We need to speak more about. That's going to push our culture. So the topic of the state of our culture and how to push our culture forward. I've heard a few different things, right? from this situation. So, in your opinion, take a minute or two and talk to the people about what can help push our culture to where it needs to be and where we are now and what we need to do, in your opinion, for our youth, because I know we're not going to be around forever. So the next generation going to have to take the mantle, the torch at some point, and they need instruction.
Bring vocation back, the program that you said you were a part of. Have accountability. Because what happens is when you don't have accountability, education, music, whatever else, you're setting people up for the industrial prison complex. Okay. The fact that they test kids in 4th grade and 8th grade to figure out how many prisons they're going to build or how many cells they're going to add on says a lot. The fact that I personally think Eric Holder and Barack Obama is a big reason for drug reform in this country. I'm going to tell you why. When I was in school, when I was younger, I remember protesting with some of my friends, the Rockefeller drug lords. We weren't protesting. It was like 5 of us, but we were like, it was a thing we were conscious of, right? So for years. So prior to me in school, but me being younger in school, the whole nine. When Eric Holder made it a point, after they did their data and they did their research, he made it a point to say, you know what, people should, they were finding out people did more time for rock cocaine than they did for powder. Generally, people that weren't of color got counseling and they were caught with powder, and people of color were caught with rock. And he just put this, it was so ingenious how they did it. He said, you know what? Cocaine's okay, you should do the same amount of time.
I agree.
And once that, so the liberal people that aren't of color, they had no shield to say, oh no, like if you argued against that.
Right, that means you did it for a reason. Yeah, okay.
And they made that a national thing, and Obama made that a national thing. All of a sudden, within a couple of years, things that I protested when I was in school, all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're gonna change the drug laws.
Right. I mean, even now when they got the opioid crisis and all that kind of stuff, now they got a place where people can shoot up and do drugs and all this kind of stuff, where my mom did time for that. I know my uncles did time for that.
What's crazy? When my man said the opioid crisis, because I didn't know anybody that did opioids. I didn't. I was like, I had to look it up.
Did you know what an opioid was?
No, I had to look it up.
It's kind of like, if you're taking Lortabs and
whatever,
and
I
all
just
kinds
didn't.
of barbiturates and
I had
stuff.
to look it up. Is my point, because I was asking people. I even asked them. I was like, I don't know what opioids are.
Right.
So I looked it up, and then I looked up the amount of people that are getting caught with opioids. I think it was like 90%.
Yeah.
Were people that were not of color.
Uh-huh.
And I'm watching the news, and they said that's the biggest crisis ever. And I'm not laughing at the people that take opioids. So this is why I said family business. But whatever you're doing with these opioids and how you can find it out, because I looked at it, I was like, because I didn't know anybody. That ain't worse than selling off your baby.
Right. I mean, yeah, of course.
No, it's not. But it's like, for the news to literally be like, this is the worst thing we've ever
because it's happening on such a large scale. Like, everybody ain't selling their kids, bro. And I know that's just an example.
Yeah.
But
on my line from Boys in the Hood.
Either they don't.
No. With Doughboy, she was like, "Give me a hit, Doughboy." Ow. Yeah. People wasn't doing, like, opioids wasn't having people out there like that. My thing is, that wasn't acknowledged. Those horrors weren't acknowledged nationally in the news like this opioid crisis is.
Well, they don't care about, as long as it's us killing us, as long as it's us doing the drugs, as long as it's us going to prison. Why would they care?
So
that's why.
Well, as a human being, you should care.
Well, maybe, but at the same time, if somebody keep doing something over and over and over again, you're gonna get desensitized to it, just like everybody. They used to hang us and burn us and eat our skin and make purses out of it. So yeah, I'm saying make oils out of us. So they're desensitized to what happens to us. So at this point, if we don't take our own accountability and we don't move our narrative forward and we don't control what we're doing and what we're saying out here for our own sake, and step our own game up, then nobody's coming to save us. We're always looking for somebody else to come do something. We need to do something.
So pushing the culture forward instead of asking, those are the things, that's something I think we should promote.
Okay. We also,
when I said accountability,
we need to use our funds to get our own networks, to get our own labels, record labels or companies, employ other people, so I can go in there with my locks and not have to worry about. It's not.
So
big
see,
enough.
you keep making big. This is what I'm saying.
It's not big enough, man.
You keep making big enough scenarios.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, some people are on a wavelength to pick up what you're talking about, and some people may not.
Well,
be.
then I ain't talking to them.
And then
I'm talking to the people
when I say
that need to get it.
So listen. So when I say they have that, what I'm noticing. Remember, I said before they said the education problem, you just need laptops. So you started laughing.
It's just like kind of saying that, oh, we got some black millionaires, so y'all good. Y'all don't need to worry about reparations or slavery. Y'all good because y'all straight. Now, what you complaining about? No. Y'all got money.
Let me finish my thought. I'm saying if you get enough people moving in this direction, enough people calling out, saying this is what you do, this is how you move. If you're gonna go left, but I'm not gonna accept that. If you have examples to show where people could see it, then you'll bring some of these people over.
Okay.
But if you try to bring everybody over at one time, that's not gonna happen.
So it's a slow process.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
All right, well, shoot, man, I don't know. So
you have examples with it. So when you're saying that, I'm not saying discount what you're saying. I'm saying this is out here. This is the resource to help you. This is the resource to bring these people. Don't just assume that this isn't here. Just look here and see.
I look at the example of Jesus.
You get what I mean?
Right? I look at Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at Jesus. Jesus was not in no church. He was out here in the world with the poor people, prostitutes, with everybody else, right? Just like everybody, we out here. And then while we out here, he didn't talk to people like he was so woke and he was so above them and judging folks. He just told people the truth and led them to the water like, hey, this is what's up. And he talked to them in a language that they could understand. Like I hear a lot of preachers and a lot of people that got money, a lot of people that's up here talking to folks using these big old words and these big examples and not really breaking it down enough for people to understand. And I need better understanding to be taught so that people can learn. Because nobody, like, you got to give a kid milk before you give them solid food.
So
you got to crawl before you walk.
Using Jesus as your analogy, I'm watching The Chosen. That's an excellent show, by the way.
Okay.
He lived. He said what he needed to do and lived, and the people that and as he was moving, he was like, some of y'all aren't going to get this message.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing, but he didn't make a big, this is what we got to do. Right. He said what he needed to say, and people followed him. And when they questioned him, he knew what he was talking about. Right. And that was it.
Some of these people, you can't question. You can't ask no questions. You can't give no pushback, nothing.
So with that being said, I said, those people that went to the right, it's like, you live your life, you do what you gotta do. This is how we're moving. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying you do. This is how we're moving. You can hang out with your boys. If you want to go to the left, go to the left. I'm going this way at this time of the day.
Right.
I'm not going to judge you. But I'm going this way. But we don't have enough people to say, I'm going this way.
Right.
So when people go to the left and make those mistakes, some people go to the right and some people don't say anything.
Right.
And that left
or
scenario.
When you do say something, you get so much pushback. You get so much. You were square. You were like, look how they doing. What's his name? Russell Wilson, because he just a regular dude.
Yeah.
They talk so bad about that man because he regular. But when I say regular, I mean he not out here trying to promote.
I know what you mean. I know exactly.
He not trying to be this and that. He
did some stuff wacky for his team this year.
Well, I'm just saying.
Prior to that, I agree.
I'm just saying the imagery that they say. How they say, and I think that's whack, man. I think that
you don't even have to go that deep. You can go to Jay-Z. Topic for a podcast, but I'm gonna tell you, share it. Jay-Z, dated Beyonce. So a chick I knew, because I'm just reflecting what she would say, which is what the greater people would say. They said, oh, well, he really don't like her. That's just for business. Years go on. Turns out he's dating. Oh, it's a business opportunity. He 14 years older than her. Years go on. He marries her. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, they got married. It's nothing real. It's from show business. Okay. Years goes on. Not years, but a couple years go on. She gets pregnant. Because I know you may probably remember hearing all these rumors. oh, well, she got pregnant, but that's really Drake's baby. I know you heard. So eventually I said, you know, this man, we got rappers with all these multiple children. Jay-Z's done his thing, whatever he's done, but it hasn't been out there publicly like that. Been with the same chick, and every phase of their relationship,
It's some negative talk.
it's some negative talk, and it's toxic.
And it's from
But
us.
And it's from us. And because it's Jay-Z and Beyonce, nobody really says this is some toxic shit.
Right.
And we watch it, and we're watching it in real time over the
Honestly,
years.
If somebody, if we call people out on stuff, then eventually they're gonna figure out a way to turn it around and make it our problem. So a lot of people are scared to say
So
something.
that's why you just go
Then
right.
You just keep going
So-
because as soon as you say something, it's a barrage on you about everything you didn't do. Even if you right, I could be right about what I'm talking
They
about.
do that because they're emotional bullies, though.
Yeah.
And like with a lot of emotional
And
bullies.
that's another thing. We need to do some mental health stuff. We need to deal with our traumas.
With a lot of emotional bullies are just physical bullies. When you say something that they don't like, if you confront it head on,
Yeah.
they'll back off.
And especially if
But not enough
they're
people-
bigger though, they're gonna talk loud and they're
Yeah,
gonna
but when you
swell up
confront
on
it,
you.
but when you confront it head on,
Yeah.
that's what they're gonna do. Because I had to deal with that
Yeah.
a lot, just being in the middle. You know, I
Yeah.
like hood shit, but my parents raised me to go right. But I kept going left, like the person you're talking about. But when you go left, people will challenge you. So there's what it is.
Because
But-
sometimes you're not hood enough, you're not black enough, you're not
Yeah,
this,
but you
whatever.
gotta be
It's a-
comfortable in
It's
your
a
own
bunch
skin.
of stuff. I mean, but when you got, the definition of bullying is when like it's one-sided, a lot of more people, they got power over you and all that kind of stuff, and you got
Or they
people,
think they
and
do.
You, right, and you got, but sometimes they do, and you got a bunch of people that's saying the same thing to you, even if it's wrong because they have a collective brain.
No,
You know what
I
I'm
agree.
saying?
But that's
And
social media, man. That's cyberbullying.
that is social media. Yeah.
So even using Jay-Z, I went off on a tangent with the Beyonce, but I'll give you another scenario. So there's a show back home called Video Music Box.
Okay.
It's before they had videos all over the country, right? It was be on the UH. I don't know if you remember UH. Okay. This guy VJ Ralph Medallion would just go to the club and then he played the music videos, right?
Okay.
So I'm looking at Jay-Z and Dame Dash on Video Music Box after Reasonable Doubt came out. They selling CDs out of the trunk of their car.
Right.
They already went gold or whatever, platinum, and they still
Like Master P.
they still hustling
Yeah.
at the club, and they were like, "Yeah, we still gonna hustle. We still this and that because it's not
Yeah.
about da da da."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I saw. You know, I graduate school doing stuff. He's on Jay-Z on his 20th album, whatever album he's on, right? And I'm watching Bloomberg reports.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they happen to have Jay-Z on it. So they talk about his business, his empire, and they had his like first grade, second grade teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Second grade teacher, they're like, "Do you know who this is?" She was like, "Yeah, that's Sean Carter, whatever that is." And they said, "Do you know how big he is in rap?" And his old teacher was on the show. She said, "It doesn't surprise me that he's that successful."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Why you say that?" She said, "Because in school, he always read. No matter what you did, he read and read and read." I'm talking about the image that they put as opposed to the real thing. And she was like, he was just, whatever he did, it wouldn't surprise me if you said he was just one of those kids. You could see that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying this because you see him with the first album, Hustling, him and Damon Dash selling stuff out
Because
of
that's
the
what's
trunk.
popular. That's what you got to do to get on.
Then you see, I'm talking about the things that we say. Then you see his first grade, a second grade teacher talking about this boy read like a fish took the water.
Yeah.
And was always in the school,
Yeah.
regardless of what happened.
Yeah.
Not saying he didn't hustle, whatever. Why is it we can't respect the man's work ethic and what he did? It is easier for us to say he worships the devil, Illuminati, as opposed to say he was an A student in school.
Research. And it's easier for us to
work.
say Bill Gates read books and he's successful
Yeah,
on
I'm
his
saying, but
merits
why?
than a Jay-Z. Because
This person read-
maybe because we see in ourselves, right, some things with Jay-Z, and we're not successful as we want to be. So we got to figure out a way to bring him down, because why aren't we up there too?
On
if we the same?
a massive,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, that's a good answer. So
Yeah.
I'm saying just not an individual, but like it seems like to be a campaign.
Yeah.
Like you would rather say this man sacrifices babies and worship the devil than to say he read a book.
Well,
in real time. Like this is his second grade teacher, whatever grade she was in.
and that's a certain segment of people.
Yeah, I know, because he wouldn't be Jay-Z with
That's a
everybody.
certain segment of people.
But that's the voice.
But
that's the bullying voice.
Right.
That's just louder than everybody. That's
Right.
not necessarily right.
Right.
But we don't have enough people to be.
But
like,
he also controlled his own image and wanted to be known as a hustler, drug dealer, gold teeth chain.
'Cause he hustled.
He put that on himself. He could have went out there in a suit and tie with a briefcase.
He did.
No, I'm saying early on he didn't. I'm saying he had to get the hood or the people on a certain level first to endorse him. And then he went to the next level and said, okay, I've done this and I made enough money to now I'm this. And then I made it like rungs on a ladder.
as a Jay-Z fan, I gotta disagree with that.
I mean, I'm just telling you as a person that observed,
So I'm
you know what I'm saying,
this-
him with the gold chains and the gold teeth in the cut at first, and then now he's
By
a
the
business
time, by
mogul.
the time his second album came out, Jay-Z was one of the few rappers. He's in a black suit on the cover. And back home, I don't know if you remember those button-down shirts with the huge cufflinks.
Yeah.
He was like he was on the radio.
Because that's who he really is.
I don't know, but I'm saying he was on the radio and it was like, why are you wearing these? He was like, yeah, I'm not. You can't be whatever age just rocking jerseys.
Exactly.
And he just switched it. And the
Exactly.
reason I remember this talking about hate.
That's what. But we saying the same thing.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
know.
I said.
No,
you said
but
you
he-
don't agree. I said the same thing.
No, I'm saying he did this early. He didn't do it
on his first album.
a second.
Okay, I'm talking
And
about
on his first album.
On his first album, and a lot of what I saw imagery wise was the dude with the golds and the grid.
His first album, he's in a suit. His second album, he's in a suit. His
Okay.
videos, I'm just saying, I don't
Okay.
want to get my.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
So that's one thing, because I'm saying that because when people started rocking those button downs in the early '90s, people was like, Jay-Z didn't start that because he had his own.
Yeah, brand and all that.
Yeah, and it was like, dude, stop it. When people was rocking jerseys and hats, he actually made that comment. And on the second album, he had that suit on.
Right.
On the first album, he got that hat. on.
But when
people
first,
weren't doing,
but when he was,
but he has videos with jerseys on. But it wasn't 100%. That's all
yeah,
I'm saying.
I mean, the point of the matter is that you figure out an algorithm, and you got to be a certain way to attract a certain clientele of people, and that's who's helping push you up. Because when he was selling CDs out his trunk, he wasn't walking around a certain type of way. He was trying to appeal to the masses of people, just like Master P, who did it first. Master P was out there, he did what he needed to do. He's selling CDs out his trunk, he making music and doing his thing. He stayed a certain way.
With that,
now he grown, he ain't got no grill in his mouth. Now he grown, he got on suits. Now he grown, he got multiple products. He not doing hood stuff.
With that being said, I was just pointing out, when you read about what these people do or how they were in school, why is it impossible to think? You know what I'm saying? Like, I get if you don't believe it, but it's like, why is it easier for you to believe all this wacky stuff to the right than it is that this man reads books?
I think it depends on who you're talking to, because some people don't read books themselves, so they were like, "Nah, I ain't reading no book." So they just go wrong with the narrative that books ain't worth. Books are not good to read.
I may not read a book, but if somebody said Mr. Robinson read a book, I would be like, "Oh hell no, he read a book."
I mean that's
just because I don't. It shouldn't be impossible for.
The thing is, historically, we were denied education. We were denied the right to read and all these other type of things. So I think that we're still dealing with some of the trauma.
Don't go back to that stuff.
I'm just telling you my own opinion. This is just my own opinion.
I did ask that.
If you go from the 60s, where we're not, highly educated people, on back from there. Now, move forward from there, we had a lot of people going to college, different universities and stuff like that. But there was a lot of working class people that didn't know how to read, that only knew how to sign their name with an X and different things of that nature.
There's levels of accountability if we're going to talk about
true.
the first thing. Because
when did they integrate schools?
73.
Okay, that's not a long time ago.
I know that.
So you're dealing with 300 years, 400 years before that.
Stop. Because I'm gonna tell you right now.
Academically,
you had more inventors, black inventors, in the 1950s than you do today.
Yeah, got you.
So
because they valued education.
Because it
was something that was precious.
I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, let's stop giving excuses for the responsibility. I didn't say.
But we tell them the truth about the situation. Historical. That's a historical truth.
If you,
it's not an excuse when somebody says, "Hey, this is where I come from." That's truth.
Okay, so if you had what I was pointing out, if you had more in the 50s and 30s, no, if you had more in the 40s and 50s,
Okay.
than you do today.
We also had more married couples back then too.
Let me finish my thought.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just saying, if you had more back then, I'm saying people that are in their 50s and 60s and 50s and 60s may have dropped the ball.
Okay.
In what you're talking about as far as a generational.
Okay.
thing. And you just can't put that on slavery. People that are 60s or 50s, they may have dropped the ball and pass it. Basically, what you're talking about, and passing the torch to the younger people that are 40, 30s, and 20.
Okay.
Because they had that. That's all I was going to
Okay.
say.
Are you finished?
I'm finished.
Okay, so I disagree totally.
Okay.
Because when you
But the numbers are.
see, I thought you see. Did you say let me finish your thought?
Let me just say this one more time.
No, it's my turn now. You just got through talking.
raising your voice on camera.
You said you was done. Okay,
But
so
the numbers are what they are.
Okay,
I'm just saying that.
So I'll say this: it was more married people back then too. Right? Because the value system was different. You fast forward from the 60s and 70s up to the 20s and 20s, then the 90s, man, we got all these single parent households. You know why? Because there were things that were enacted by higher ups to separate, to make you not value education. When you get in the education system and you listening to people talk about the only thing that we got in our past is slavery and Martin Luther King, you know what I'm saying? Then that makes the older generation kind of like, I don't value that. That's not helping push the narrative. That's not the truth. And then if you look at relationship-wise as far as marriages, because I'm comparing the two because it's kind of the same kind of situation where we were married a lot. We had family back then. There was people that stayed together a long time back in the 60s and 70s. Now you fast forward to the 1990s, the 2020s, 2023, even today, our marriage system, we're the most unmarried, untogether, kids out of wedlock, out of everybody in the United States. That's systematic. Those are some of these things were put in place to do that to us.
Are you? Now, I don't want to cut you off.
Go ahead.
You are absolutely correct.
Okay.
No. You're absolutely correct.
All right.
There's no but. You're absolutely correct. If I don't want to go to my phone, but there's the programs that were put in place, how they were put in place, actually when they were put in place, who was in office. That happened in the mid to late 70s.
Right.
Not slavery.
That's what I'm going back to.
But no, because that's where you would go. That's what you would mention.
I made one point that we would deny education, and now you want to stay stuck right there. No,
it's not that I want to stay stuck.
Fast forwarded to the 60s and everything, and you still keep going back to that.
The reason I go back to that is because people that don't want to take the time to find out this factual information.
I just gave you facts.
Oh my gosh. The people that don't want to take the time to find out when these things took place, that you could actually find out about the Republican Brain Trust from 75 to say this is our agenda. They just say slavery. It's a blanketed thing. And it's like, no, when I said, remember we were talking earlier, I said, no, there's examples of this here. There's examples of